Good morning to everyone. Is that right? If you haven't taken a moment yet to take care of your phones, you might want to do that right now. And while you're doing that, you can look in your hymnal worship and song, number 7, Come Thou Almighty King. And we're glad to see everyone here today. One of the old songs we used to sing. I like that one. I've been thinking lately how and why we all came to be here today. And neither one of our parents were raised in a Quaker meeting. Our father was a disappointed Methodist because he was raised in a strictly teetotaling family, but the Methodist did have wine and wafer communion on special events. And as a young boy, he thought that was very interesting and was looking forward to when he was old enough to take communion. He thought it would be a spirited, if not spiritual, experience. But when the day came, he was very disappointed to find out it was grape juice. It wasn't wine. And he said, well, he thought if they had misrepresented that, they might be misrepresenting other things too. So kind of flatlined the Methodist for him. But in the meantime, Mother was being raised in the Dust Bowl of Oklahoma, and that was a challenging time, to say the least. And in her church, she found a supportive community, and a place of hope and a haven. And time passed, they both became adults, the world went to war, and Daddy was sent to Oklahoma to become a pilot. And Oklahoma, where Mother was volunteering in her church for USO events that were being held for the soldiers there. And Daddy found his way to those events. And again, it was a church with no wine, but I think he was over it by then. But as Daddy liked to say, Mother was the prettiest girl there. So they got married, the war ended, and they found themselves down the road here in Canby. And they had a young growing family, and they were looking for a family church. They decided they would look to the people that they admired and liked the most in the community and see where they worshiped. Well, Jim and Roberta Kellum were two of those people. And so Mother and Daddy followed them down here, and they had decades of just what they were looking for. It was a good fit. It was a place of hope, a society of friends and family they could depend on. There was honesty and integrity. It was a chance to challenge, to grow, and they had years and years of hard work, sometimes fellowship, and lots of fun with everyone here. And as I look today, I think things haven't changed that much in 75 years. We're all still looking for a home, a place of safety, of love, support, where we can try to make a difference in the world and be together. So whoever or whatever brought us all here together, I think we're very fortunate and very thankful to be here today.
Good morning, friends. Well, as we continue our meeting for worship, let's share any announcements we might have. We'll begin with our friends on Zoom to see if they have anything they'd like to share. And if none from that community, then we'll open it up to those present here.
If you're on the church email list, you will have seen we did get to extend our butter braids sale for another week, so it will be ending next Sunday instead of today. Who ever knew that raspberries would cause so much trouble? But they were not able to add it to the online list. So if you want to order the raspberry flavor, you will need to see one of us, let us know, or we have paper order forms, and we will have to have payment at that point, a check or whatever. We don't have the capability of doing credit cards. So we have a week to do it. If you're not on the email list, now you know it. And Lynn, if you see Lynn or me after church, Lynn's right here, we can help you with that. So we appreciate everybody who has ordered already, but you're going to have to get your orders in before next Sunday. Thanks.
And let me just say those butter braids are excellent pastoral appreciation gifts.
And of course you prefer raspberry, right?
Oh, or chicken.
Yes, speaking of chicken, this is Sue Walton, and we did provide Bill with this chicken. And our thanks to Madeline, who really, Bill said he couldn't come, so he sent Madeline, his granddaughter. We had a really great time, and I want to say thank you to all of those who came and all of those who provided goodies for us. We took 2 truckloads of food to Almost Home yesterday. We're going to take a 3rd this afternoon. Unless somebody and we have a couple of things that we can't give them. We have some powdered sugar, and we have some whipped cream / Cool Whip, and a couple of things of butter that we could give some of it to them, but I don't think they need, I think I counted 6 things of butter. So anyway, if you would like, I would love to see a little bit of a contribution to my friend Karen over here, who carries the money bag, toward that. So if you're interested, I'll be in the kitchen. We still have a little bit of cleanup to do. My thanks very much to all the workers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sue.
Just a reminder that next Saturday, we're going to have cleanup day, fall cleanup. It starts at 8 a.m. on Saturday. Hopefully it won't snow. Who knows? Anyway, I appreciate any help we can get. Thank you.
This is Joanne Gulley, and on behalf of Outreach, we are still collecting items for Kunot for Thanksgiving. Our current count from last weekend was we still need 81 containers of stuffing, 40 containers of macaroni and cheese, and 95 containers of green beans. But I see a lot of stuff here, so we'll send out an update this week and let you know if things are still needed. Just a reminder, we are providing 200 items for 250 baskets for Thanksgiving for Kunot. They're, of course, in this economic times, the need has really increased. We did have a very generous donation from some folks in our meeting that we have been able to turn that money over to Kunot so that they can get turkeys and chickens and things like that to provide the meat item to go in that basket. So your contributions will make a huge difference, and we are so very grateful. Switching hats, Women's Book Club is next Sunday after meeting for worship. So pack your little lunch and show up, and we'll talk about aging in a good way. Oop. Thanks, Lee.
Hi, Karen O'Brien. I just had a question about cleanup day. Do we bring implements?
We're going to trim shrubs, and we're going to trim all the weeds around the white meeting house. So anything that would help us do that.
Like rakes, hose,
Yeah.
things like, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question about the Thanksgiving. Do we put the items for Thanksgiving baskets in with this, or does it go someplace? Okay.
You can put them right in there, and we'll divide them up.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's enter into our time of joys and concerns. We'll begin with Zoom, and then as you sense that they are finished, we'll open it up for the room here and allow others to share.
I need to back up one notch. What was the time for the cleanup day? I mean, I didn't hear it given.
8 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
This is Rita Goss on Zoom. Can you hear me?
Is this on? Can you hear me? I have a joy on behalf of my parents and a few other members of my mom's family. This coming Friday, early Friday morning, my parents, along with a few members of my mom's family, are going to be flying to Costa Rica, and then they get back on the following Saturday, so we won't be here for a couple weeks.
Oh God, you are a God of extrapolation, for you take such small gestures and magnify their goodness and importance, and lives are changed. The lives of the doer, the lives of the receiver. And so, oh God, may we pay attention to the small things in life. For it is easy to lose sight, to become quickly overwhelmed by the vastness of the world and its challenges. So teach us, O God, to love carefully, thoughtfully, judiciously, keeping our eyes peeled, our ears opened to the needs around us, especially those we are most likely to overlook. We thank you for the makers of dresses. We thank you, O God, for those who care, who cook, who feed us, who grow food, who teach, who sing, who create beauty in this good life and this beautiful world. Oh God, for those small moments and episodes of loving kindness, we thank you today. Amen.
We have some people who would like to do some collecting for us. We see a lot of food has already been brought up today. There might be a little bit left in there that, oh, we've got some good helpers today. It's nice to see you, Madeline. If you would like to make a contribution to Fairfield, there are always collection plates at the back of the meeting, as well as online options and all for us. And it is nice to see the sharing wagon going around and getting all kinds of food for our friends that we don't even know.
She usually does that with the skid steer.
We'll see if she can parallel park.
Yeah, that's the test. Well, thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Jimmy. Well, winter arrived this week, and with it, seasonal affective disorder, that gift of Indiana winters when the lack of sunlight plunges many of us into despair. The solution, of course, is Florida, which raises other difficulties, namely snakes and Ron DeSantis. Now, when I said winter arrived, you might have thought not until December 21st, but in the Gulley household, winter officially begins when Joanne says to me, why don't you bring in some firewood and put a fire in the wood stove? We are not calendar fundamentalists in the Gulley household. Winter starts when you carry in the first load of firewood. That's when it starts. When I was a kid, the start of winter was always a Saturday, usually in early September, this time of year, when my father would have us remove the screens from the windows and carry them up to the attic, then carry down the storm windows and install them in the windows, these big, heavy, unwieldy windows, carrying them up a nearly vertical ladder because it was always too short, and so you couldn't put much of a lean on the ladder. You just had to go, and you would carry these heavy windows up the ladder, and the wind would catch them and pull you off the ladder, and you would fly and lay on your back. Today, kids like rock climbing, but when I was a kid, we scratched that itch by installing storm windows. And so I would be carried away by the wind and lay on the ground broken, looking up, staring at the bare trees, cold wind blowing across my shattered body, and I would pray to God to let me survive another Indiana winter, thinking to myself, someday when I am a pastor, I'm going to talk about storm windows and winter and depression. And here we are, another dream realized. Toward that end, we've been talking about dying before we're dead, more specifically about the challenges of depression and the habits we can cultivate to enhance our lives so we don't die before we're dead. If you suffer from depression, and I will make this statement throughout this series, I urge you to consult your doctor and seek medical treatment. But I also will remind you that that is just a starting point, because as I've observed and know firsthand, taking antidepressants is a bit like living in Indiana. You get rid of the valleys, but there are no mountains either. To attain those higher and more elevated moments, we must practice and learn to cultivate certain habits and behaviors that can enrich our lives. So today I want to talk about the importance of hope. The importance of hope, or cultivating the habit of optimism. Now, I believe that almost all of our physical features, our physical dimensions of life, are rooted in genetic factors over which we have little control. We're just born with them, and that's just the way it is. And I suspect there are psychological qualities too that are rooted in genetic factors. If someone knows any more about that, feel free to affirm that. Unless you disagree, then just don't say anything at all. But that even our psychological factors in our life have a genetic bearing also to them. And you've known this if you've ever known a man and a woman who were one way in a personality and then had a child who was another way. And you realize that we are what we are, not just through nurture in the environment we were born in, but also these little genetic factors that sometimes skip a generation and then pop up like Madeline's little red hair that skipped 2 generations and then emerged in our family. This is all to say that I think our general outlook on life, though certainly influenced by genetic factors, is ultimately, our outlook is ultimately a conscious decision. A conscious decision, and that just as one can choose to be pessimistic and negative, one can also decide to be optimistic and positive. Now, I'm not saying that cultivating the habit of optimism is easy. It isn't. Only that it is possible. And more than possible, it is essential to our emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being. Optimism begins with self-awareness, which means we must be conscious and mindful of our moods to counter our feelings of pessimism and gloom whenever they arise. This past Monday, my dermatologist phoned to tell me that a biopsy I'd had done indicated basic cell carcinoma, which, if you know anything about cancer, you know it is the weakest, scrawniest cancer you can have. If pancreatic cancer is the Chuck Norris of cancers, basal cell carcinoma is the Pee Wee Herman of cancers. You go in, you have it removed, you live another 30 years. But all I could think about after my dermatologist phoned me with this news, all I could think about was this friend of mine in Danville who had ignored his basal cell carcinoma for years. And I'd tell him, you better have that looked at. And he'd just laugh and he wouldn't do it. And it finally got so bad he had to do it. And the carcinoma had grown into his jaw, and he ended up having part of his face removed, and it nearly killed him. And the next thing you know, that was the only thing I could think of when the dermatologist called me. And I spent the rest of the day until Joanne got home planning my tombstone. Okay, should it be granite? Should we go with marble? Slate is nice. Joanne came home. I sat her down. I said, honey, I have bad news. It's basal cell carcinoma. Oh, well, that's no big deal, she said. You'll go in there, cut it out, you'll be fine. Why don't you bring in some firewood while I start supper? Firewood? Supper? How could I even think about eating when I was 10 minutes from death? I was a little put out, to be honest. Here I was in the icy grip of death, and Joanne wanted firewood and food. So I made a fire. Joanne made supper. After we ate, we went for a walk. It was a beautiful evening, and walking along, it occurred to me that I had let my imagination get the best of me. That rather than assuming the best, that all would be well, I had assumed the worst, that I would be dead in 10 minutes. The moment I realized that, I began to feel better. I began to feel better. Optimism begins with self-awareness, which means we must be conscious and mindful of our moods in order to counter our feelings of pessimism and gloom. Optimism is the deliberate decision to make the best of our lives, to hope for the best, to work for the best. And as it turned out, everything went well. I went to the surgeon on Thursday. She removed half my neck, and here I am, fit as a fiddle. There's a little story in the New Testament, in the 5th chapter of John, about a man who had been sick for 38 years. And I just have to say that as a hypochondriac, I really admired this man. To be able to sustain an illness for 38 years is remarkable. So I have a bit of respect for this man. He's lying beside the pool at Bethesda, where it was said angels would regularly visit this pool and touch the waters. And the first person to touch the pool, the water, after the angels had stirred the water, it was said that person would be healed of their illness. And so here's this guy. He's laying there for 38 years. And Jesus comes along and he sees the man and could tell from the cobwebs that he'd been there a long time, this guy had. And he asked him, "What's your problem?" Now, in the English translation, Jesus is a bit more diplomatic. But in the original languages, there is just a note of exasperation, kind of a, don't you think you should just get up off your butt kind of thing. What's your problem? The man immediately blames others. If only someone would help me get to the water. I'm this way because other people are inconsiderate. No one will help me. If only, if only, if only. Now, bear in mind, he is reclining right next to the water. And all he has to do in 38 years was be quick enough to touch it. This is pessimism at its deepest, darkest moment. If only, if only, if only. Optimism is the deliberate decision to make the best of our lives, to hope for the best, to work for the best. Medicine will put us beside the pool in a place and position to be made well. But it is up to us to reach out for the water. No one can do that for us. Cultivating the habit of optimism allows us to reach for the waters the angels have stirred.
Phil's message and the Bible story make me think of the polar opposites of inertia and action. It's been kind of my personal observation, and I think I've read some science that says this is true. As Phil said, if you disagree, be quiet. But but I think I have read that, surprisingly enough, action often precedes the mental state. Sometimes our mind tells us, well, I can't do anything. I can't move forward. I'm just stuck here. I can't possibly move. But if we can work up the energy and the will to start moving, our mind changes and we become more optimistic, more willing to keep going. And so, yes, practicing optimism is something to be strived for, but optimism often comes when we work up the will to do something and not just sit and worry about our situation. I'm sure you all know how often I brag about my wife, but I think one of the reasons that she is such an optimistic, outgoing, energetic person is that she never stops moving. And it's almost always to help someone else. And I admire that.
I'm so touched by what you said, Phil. The part that's so poignant to me is the reach and the point in the story that the man was next to the pool. I think that optimism for my life is the awareness that I am near it. I am near whatever I want because it's here. And so it's not having to get a GPS towards it. It's not about having to eat your Cheerios to get the energy for it. It is always near because it's here.
Are all hearts clear? And I want to thank Phil for that very, very inspiring message today. Our closing hymn is in worship and song, How Great Thou Art, number 8.
Hartman, can you come down here, please? She's nervous, I can tell. Come on down. I didn't mention in my sermon that one of the reasons I felt so much better was because I'd gone to see Sandra, and she was so optimistic about her treatment and about what was ahead of her, and I would be theologically remiss not to share with the meeting and with you the thing that brings me deep joy in life, and that is Hostess cupcakes. So Here you go on behalf of your friends and your family at Fairfield who love you. Remember, you cannot solve every problem in the world, friends, but you can give people cupcakes.
Well, can I say something?
You can say something.
We were in touch because my surgery was Tuesday and his was Thursday. And he asked every other day, how are you doing? And text me. And then he said his procedure went well, but he's a little sore. I said, well, did the doctor recommend Tylenol for you? And he said, I tried Tylenol, it doesn't work. I'm using ice cream now, and I'm rubbing it right on my hand. And I thought for a minute, I should get some ice cream out of the freezer. I told Charles not to buy anymore. He's using ice cream, so everybody have ice cream today.
We love you. We love you. There you go.
I'm going to get ice cream to go with my hostess.
Oh my gosh, that's heaven right there. Turn and greet friends.